Hi everyone and welcome back to the podcast Hello EL, where we decode future of work and skills that matter the most. My name is Ridhima Bedi Thareja, Brand and Marketing Manager at Employability.life, a wholly owned subsidiary of Federation University Australia. And today we are going to explore on a topic which might sound technical in the beginning, but at its core, it is something on which every decision in the financial world is dependent. And who better to help us unpack that than Dr. Haimanti Biswas, who is Head WPB Risk Global Analytics at HSBC. She has more than 2 decades of experience in not just building, but leading the global analytics team. She has seen the banking transformation from the core and had played a vital role in that transformation. We are honored to have you, Dr. Biswas.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Let's start from the beginning. What first pulled you out in the world of risk analytics? Was it your curiosity about the data, or you just stumble into it like many of us do in the early age of our careers?
I think so, the latter. It was by chance, and I was happily doing my PhD in Mumbai, and I happened to be in Bangalore presenting one of my papers for my thesis in Indian Institute of Science. And one of my seniors, who was with G Capital then, said that, why don't you sit for an interview?
Oh.
And interestingly, I didn't have my CV. Okay. And then he said, oh, just write it overnight and come for the interview tomorrow morning. And I went and I cracked it. So I would say that what started as a not so planned thing, after that it became more planned. And I would definitely say that the curiosity in the numbers grew. And I felt that it's a world where you can tell stories on people through data, and it's very dynamic. And I believe that's the passion that has kind of held me into this. And I'll just correct you there. It's almost silver jubilee, not yet, but 24 years and counting.
Superb. That's incredible. And I feel finance has always been a male dominated career option. But what's your take on that? And what was one thing which actually drove you towards your interest in the numbers?
Yeah, it's true that what happens is that in analytics and risk, you will see most of the people are coming from STEM, right?
Right.
And if you look at the percentages of female who are doing STEM, though the numbers are increasing, is little skewed towards the males. And interestingly enough, when I started my career, and all through it, there has been many occasions. I was a single person, single woman in that room. It appears to be a little daunting, but I don't think so, because in the journey you do have a lot of male allies who help you grow your career. And as I said, there are multiple things which works in your favor in the journey. One is that you need to have the right people who are kind of pushing you and who are sponsoring you. The second is, what are you yourself doing, in the sense raising your hand, right? So every time you raise your hand and say that I would like to do, it has to be different, right?
Right.
Then you can't keep on doing the same thing. So as you do all of this, have the sponsors, do the raise your hand and do it, and in the process keep on learning, keep on pushing. I think so rest of the thing follows. So
Right.
it's not that, to your previous question also, it's not that I carved out a career that I would like to do it this way.
Right.
This is the pathway, but just making sure that hopefully creating the right spaces or right places at the right time, with the right people,
Right.
in the right environment, all of that, yeah, has kind of clicked.
I think it's right to say that it wasn't going with the flow, but going with the planned flow.
Yes, I completely agree to that. So, this is something I keep on telling my team members who are just starting their careers also. Sometimes people feel that, oh, I will not get anything out of it right now, right? But the thing is that maybe it doesn't help you right now. But see, career is a marathon, it's not sprint, right?
Right, of
So if
course.
it is a marathon, maybe it will not help you today, right? But maybe it will help you 2 years down the line. You
Right.
never know. So
Right.
it's sometimes, I mean, we are so carried away of now, right? Because today generation is largely the Insta generation, right? So they want everything instant. Right? Everything can't be instant when it comes to career
Right.
with
Right.
analytics and risk and in a bank.
As you have just mentioned that more women are actually participating now and they are choosing finance as a career, and it's good to know that society is grooming. I think finance stream itself has evolved a lot. Earlier, if I can recall, banking used to be more of reactive. When something happened, some risk arised, only then actions used to be taken. But now it's more of predictive,
Yeah.
because AI has played a very major role. Now, I think AI can predict prior to all the red flags that happen. So, what's your take on that?
See, when I started my career 24 years back, it's not that we didn't have the data and we didn't have the algorithms that we are talking about, that the world is kind of talking about and is so much interested in. So we used to have that, okay? But I think so. What has kind of changed is it has become more real time, in the sense it's not that we are only predicting end of the month.
Right.
You can actually do it right now, right?
Right.
So, and it is also, there is a lot of super personification, right? So for example, the way you are looking at Facebook, or you're looking at Netflix, right? It gives you recommendations, right?
Right.
So what you should look at, and the same happens here also. So we as a bank, we know you so well through how you're banking with us. We are defining what you need to choose as your next product. So those kind of super personification has happened. From a risk perspective also, yes, you're absolutely correct. It has become very predictive. So because there's so much of data which is kind of getting generated,
Right.
and as a result, you are kind of making decisions which is backed by data and using algorithms, AI, which is more advanced. And because we do have the processing power to do so, previously you didn't have, right? So
Right, of
even things,
course.
so you are carrying a mobile, right? So it's one TV, right? And imagine when we started 25 years, we didn't have, I mean, I had done my PhD when, I mean, my data was in a floppy disk, and I had
Right.
6 floppy disks when it carried the data.
Oh.
So the things have changed. Things have changed dramatically, and in a positive way, according to me. And there's so much that you can do, and given that there is so much of data, what has become more and more important is that how well I'm using the data,
Right.
and do I know how to use the data. So all of that becomes very, very important.
As you have just mentioned that that actually grew a little bit of curiosity in my mind, because I'm also pursuing PhD. So I would love to know that back then, because data analytics is something, and you have done your PhD in economics, right?
Yeah.
So that is something which is not a that's not a topic which is way too interesting for too many people, but you used to do it, and you just mentioned that you used to carry the floppy disks. So would you like to share any memory with us where you experienced something different which you even live till now?
Yeah, sure. So, see, I grew up in a very small town in Orissa. It is a steel township, okay,
Oh.
Rourkela, because my dad used to work there. And there, back then, there were only 2 professions that one could do. Either you become an engineer or you
Oh.
become a doctor. Okay, there was nothing
Okay.
beyond that. And I chose, and it's not that I didn't want to do it. I mean, thankfully, so I didn't crack it. And so I landed up doing chemistry. So my majors is in chemistry, and after I completed my major in chemistry, I think so. One of my friend, she said that there is an institute in Mumbai which attracts students multidisciplinary who can do PhD. So
Oh.
it's not that you have to be in economics, then only you do a PhD in economics. It could be from a maths major or
Science, yeah.
anything, and and you could do that. So I just thought, let me kind of give it a chance. And I would also say that I'm very thankful to my parents because they allowed me to travel alone, okay, and go and give that exam. And that was one of my turning point, because if I didn't do that back then, my trajectory could have been very different. So going back to the question, so I think so. One is what choices you're making at that point of time, and I happened to kind of pick up economics because that's what you could do at the in that institute, and it was I think so. The interesting part was that I was competing with my peers or the students who came from best of colleges in India when it comes to economics. Okay, there were people from Delhi School of Economics, Presidency
Right.
College. I mean, all the top, and the grading there was relative ranking, which means that if you are at the bottom of the class, you fail. Okay,
Right.
so and that kind of pushes you, and I mean that was something I said that, and I have never failed in my life, and being I mean I wouldn't say that I have been a topper all throughout, but the fear of failing was so high that it kind of propelled me that I have to do this. And what is one more interesting thing that I did, the PhD was on health effects of indoor air pollution. So I did my thesis under Dr. Parekh, and so she introduced me to the health economics aspect of it. And through that, I had to go, and I was using primary data, what you call
Right,
as when
right.
you go house door to door. And so AC
Collect it,
Nursal
yeah.
was actually the vendor who was doing it. So that point of time, actually had gone to villages, remote villages in India, in UP, in Rajasthan, and done all this. Okay, and and that opened up lot of things, and one I would say which shaped me as an individual. I think so the fearlessness, I would say, that kind of happened. The second thing is, I mean, the fear of unknown, I would say that that kind of got removed. And the second thing is that able to interact with people who are very different from what I'm doing. Right? I was a
Right, right,
student,
right,
but
right.
there were people who were actually who were just going and doing the collecting the data, right?
Right.
And then I was in remote villages where you go. I mean, forget place to stay. You don't even have the place to go and pee, right?
Yeah.
So it is so, and that's where you realize the hard reality, right? You're
Right.
whatever you're doing, how much of impact it creates on you as an individual. So when I look back, I feel that I think so maybe I have learned the perseverance, besides the fearlessness talking about, and adaptability too.
Yeah, that must have been a great experience for you for
Yes,
sure.
yes, yes,
Because
yes.
I think these kind of
Yeah,
experience gives you
yeah.
the greatest learnings of your life. I think for many students and young professionals, this term risk analytics might feel a little abstract. So I would love to know from you if you can define risk analytics in probably just few lines, probably how you would be explaining it at a family dinner, because I think risk analytics is not just about maths and numbers. It is about business, studying the behavioral insights. It's
Yeah,
actually
yeah,
not crunching numbers, right?
yeah.
So, what's your take on that?
Yeah, you know, when the people from, I mean, the students who join us, I mean, what I tell them that if you can't tell what you do to your grandmother, then it's a problem. So you have to
Right,
kind of simplify to that level so
right,
that your grandfather or grandmom can understand what exactly you do.
of course.
So let me kind of try explaining and make it simple. So I'll just split it up into two parts. One is risk and other is analytics. So what is analytics? Analytics is nothing but a play of numbers, according to me. Okay, so and a play of numbers, and what happens is that for anything that we do, the phone that we use, the transactions that we do, let's say you're watching, you're buying something on Amazon or you're watching on Netflix, everything is creating a data,
Right, of
right?
course.
And what analytics does is that it looks at the data that is getting created using tools, and using codes, okay, and creates a story, a pattern, which helps us to kind of understand. Could be different things. Okay, one of them is risk, which means that I, as a bank, I give you a card, I give you mortgage, I give you loan. What I want is that I want you to, the best is that I don't want you to pay everything in total.
Right.
You should pay something, but may not be everything, because if you pay everything, I don't make a lot of money. But if you pay something and not everything, I make money. So so the same time, what I want is that you have to pay, if not this month, next month, right? So the entire risk is around whether you are going to pay me back the money that you owe to me.
Right.
And so what happens is that I look at all data. So when you come first to us, we have all your demographic data,
Right.
where you stay, are you a student, are you working, do you own a house, or do you stay in a rent, do you own a car? So that kind of tells us whether how much of disposable income you have, so that you
Right.
can pay me back. So then I use all that information to kind of tell and find out whether I should give you a card or not. And if I give you a card, what is the limit I should give you?
Right.
Okay. And then I look at all this, because you go and transact, and then based on all this data, I also find out whether I should increase your limit or not. So then maybe you are at the brink of your limit. Should I give you the over limit or not? So the multiple decisions which are made on you through the data that you are creating for us. And you can imagine the same thing is happening with your telecom data.
Right.
The same thing is happening with your spend pattern in Amazon, anything. So the data is something which you are creating, all of us create.
Right.
And using that, we are trying to understand what is the trend, what is the pattern. So trying to answer questions, why.
Such a great example. I think now our young professionals and students will remember this example for life, because as I just mentioned, it is not about crunching numbers, it is understanding the human behavior, the market uncertainties, and to make then that big decisions, right?
Absolutely.
Could you give us a real world example, say it in a bank, because you have been into risk analytics and you have led the teams where risk analytics and understanding the data has actually shaped a big decision of yours?
See, in the bank, and not just bank like HSBC, all banks, all decisions are backed by data. Okay,
Right.
so it is no longer something which is done heuristically. So all of us have hypotheses. Let's say that if you have a credit card and I give you a increase in limit, will you spend that money or not?
Right.
So I have given you an increase in limit based on your spending pattern, your recency behavior, your income that I have as data.
Right.
I look at your CIBIL score, so that to see how good or bad you are as a customer. And that also tells me how good or bad you are in other banks. So all that things I'm looking at, and then I make a decision of should I give you an increase in limit or not. And once I've given you an increase in limit, I will look at your pattern. I mean, how much you have used it. Have you used all of it, part of
Right.
it, not used at all? So that tells me that people like you, I mean, what is the trigger?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So that's a decision that we make in terms of because you asked me the question. So it is all predicting if I increase the limit, whether you are going to spend
that
more or
amount.
not.
Right.
So that's from a revenue perspective. But going back to the question that you had on risk, so risk it starts with the question whether at all I will give you or not.
Right.
Okay. So it could be, as I was giving you the examples, right? Let's say that you have a saving accounts with HSBC, right?
Right.
And then I look at that data in terms of what is the money that is flowing in to our bank through your, and maybe it is the saving account is because your employer banks with HSBC. So we see that money coming in, and we look at the deposits. Based on the deposits that you have kind of money coming in, money going out,
Right.
we now decide whether it is good for us to kind of give you a loan, personal loan or not. And that could be based on at what juncture you are.
All
It
right.
could be something like loan around your birthday, go and do a holiday,
Right.
because or it could be depending upon the age, right? At a let's say that you're banking with us, and at some point, based on what we generally see, people between 30 to 35 look for having a house. So that's when we will kind of say that, why don't you buy a mortgage?
Right, right, right.
So we look at the various data that you are creating, and this is what we call as the in-house data, and and the data could be outside of us also, so in-house and
Outhouse.
and this is the CIBIL data that I was kind of referring to. Many banks, we also use the data which is getting generated through your utility bills and all. So that kind of tells us, assesses your risk behavior, and then we decide, okay, we will give or not give. If we give, how much we will give. So I'm talking about just credit risk, but it is not just credit risk that we work on. There is reputational risk, there is market risk, so there is capital risk. So there are multitude of risks one can work on,
Right.
and once you join this kind of and it will kind of vary in terms of actually I would say that sometimes people feel that when it comes to risk and analytics, they draw a very narrow perspective of it in the sense, and they feel that everything is numbers, as you rightly pointed out, but there is so much of dynamism here, because your all decisions that you're taking based on
Right.
data. I mean, you're interacting with IT, you're interacting with tech, you're interacting with business, you are interacting with marketing. So there are I mean, it's not working in silos. There's a lot of collaborations that are happening. And more importantly, your environment is changing, right?
Right.
So as a result, so if there's so many changes happening, so obviously what worked yesterday may not work tomorrow.
Right, of course. And I think, as you just mentioned, that everything you do is getting captured, and on that the decisions are getting made.
Yes.
So whatever you do today, you might not be doing that tomorrow, and
Yes,
of course
absolutely,
the
absolutely.
options and offerings will be changed. So as you have explained in detail about risk analytics, so as I mentioned, this term might sound daunting to few people. So what's the biggest myth and something which you have heard and which you made laugh?
Um, I think so. The biggest one that I hear, and which goes against me, right? I come with a PhD, right? So people feel that only nerdy people are in this profession, and it is, and also only people with math, stats,
Right.
they can only do. No. So that is, I think that's a misconception, right? I would say that you need to have flair for numbers. You need
Right.
to love the numbers, but numbers mean nothing if you are not a good storyteller. Okay, so you have to build a good story of what you are saying and what you think can happen based on the trends that you are seeing. So that's what I would say.
That's wonderful. And now, as Dr. Biswas has rightly mentioned, that risk analytics stream is not only for the nerds, it's for everyone. And if you have interest in numbers, as well as if you're good at storytelling, of course, this could be a great career option for you all. As you
Yeah.
have already mentioned, that risk analytics is for people who are actually crazy for numbers but should also have storytelling. But I think many of our students and young professionals would love to know that what are the skills which are required at this point of time, because we are actually living in the world of AI, for them to step into this field.
I'll correct you, okay? It's not crazy. You need to have love, okay? So there are two different things. So I would say, to me, there are four things, okay? The first one, you need to be curious. I
Right.
think so. You also kind of mentioned, because at every part of doing analytics, you're asking the question why, right? You need to kind of understand the trends, or and why something is behaving. There is an anomaly behavior.
Right.
So that curiosity needs to be there.
Why it's there,
Why it is
why
there.
it is needed, I
Yeah,
need to
yes,
solve it.
Yes, yes. So that's the first thing. The second thing I would say that you need the perseverance,
Right.
because not every time you will have the answer.
Right.
And it's like peeling the onion, okay? Because maybe the answer is lying way deep, and you have just maybe peeled 3 layers, and you're not able to see something. And in numerous occasions, it happens that you work for a month or 2 months, and suddenly you realize that whatever we have been working, it's not making sense. Okay, so you might have to go back to the drawing board.
Right.
That's where your perseverance matters, and that's where many people feel that, okay, what did I do and it's wasted. I feel that no, nothing is wasted. A no answer to a question is also a good answer.
Of course.
Okay, so that's the second one. And the third one, I would say, is adaptability, according to me. Is that, and I was telling you, when I started 24 years back, we used to work on Excels, and we used to have models also, and we used to have something what we call as SAS, which is kind of getting little obsolete, and now it is Python, and you are kind of working on cloud space. So things are changing, and things are changing really fast, right? So if you are not adapting, you will not be relevant.
Of course.
So you need to constantly adapt to the changes that are kind of happening, and it is and if you don't link your curiosity to the perseverance, and persevere and adapt, it doesn't work. But I would add a fourth thing. Actually, the fourth thing, according to me, is integrity, and I will say why it is so important. See, end of the day, you're making decisions for humans, on humans. Okay, so, and there is data, and you are making it. There is a very thin line to kind of misinterpret and tell something which is not actually the truth.
Right.
So you have to be very honest in the decisions that you are taking, for the individuals as well as for the bank. So that's my fourth thing.
Yeah. So, as you mentioned that, see, risk analytics is also about actually storytelling with
Yeah.
the data, and you have talked about curiosity, persiveness, and also integrity, adaptability. I would love to know from your experience that how can students actually get involved into this? This is something we stress a lot in Employability.life as well, because we feel that whatever you have, it also matters at how you're presenting, right? And I think risk analytics is also somehow related with the same way. So is it an art, or how can students learn it?
See, I would say that it is definitely an art, but it is not an art that can't be cultivated.
All
Okay,
right.
so what happens is that most of us, when we sign up for a college, right? So there is a pedigree which is kind of getting built up, right? So you are kind of learning through the various courses that you are kind of taking, and you are learning your coding language, you are learning technology. There are three things here which becomes very important. So unless you write the best of codes, okay, you can't process the data fast.
Right.
So you need to know that. The second is that you also need to know what is the question you're asking, right? So, and to help you answer that questions, or help you frame those hypotheses, you need to know the various, I would say, the statistical tools. So which again your college will teach you.
Right.
And the third thing, which I believe many colleges do, to your point, is bringing in the business aspects of it, because
Right.
you bring in maybe people from the industry and help them understand how are these linked. So I think so. If the students pay attention to that, in terms of how you are linking, that helps. The fourth thing again I have is with regards to see, sometimes we are so bogged down with our grades, we are not spending time to do the, I would say, the lateral thinking part.
Right, right,
Okay?
right.
So which means that where your, I mean, I personally feel that you may be the best student, but you may not be the best, I would say, presenter. Right.
Right,
So
of
if you
course.
have picked up something like what he is doing in terms of graphic designing, or you are creating websites for your college, or you're part of your, let's say, students magazine group where you are creating those, framing those stories, or if you're even organizing events or fests, all this I think so helps, because it creates a very holistic person. Because see, when you work, you are never going to work in companies which work as where you're expected to work in silos. You will
Right.
always work in a team. And to me, I feel that the best or the optimal outcomes will not happen if you are working in silos. You have to work in a collaborative environment, and for that you need to have those interpersonal skills. Because see, you can't be the best coder as well as the best statistician, as well as the best storyteller, as well as the best organizer.
Best at everything,
Yeah,
yeah.
you can't be, right?
Right.
So maybe you're good in one or two things, but the rest of the things needs to be compensated,
Right.
to bring in the best in terms of the outcomes that we are expecting as an employer, as a bank, right? I think so that this holistic thing comes in when you are interacting with, and it doesn't happen, because many a times what students feel is that, oh, I will pass off this course, then I will take up some course, then something will happen.
Right.
That it is never a linear thing, according to me. So, and it is never sequential. Everything is happening simultaneously. So that, and even when you do work in an organization like us, you will never do one project. It is always multiple projects.
Right.
So how well you cope up, and depends upon what you have been kind of doing. That the
Right.
resilience factor comes in when you are interacting with so many people, so many different teams, so many, and it's not just your small group, core group. No, it is the more you spread out, I think so, the more better, or the more, I would say, more groomed you become.
Right. So, Dr. Biswas, I was reading a McKinsey report which actually stated that R, SQL, AI, these are the top trending technological skills which everybody should have. But they also mentioned that storytelling is extremely important with data, which we have been talking from quite a lot time. And I think we at Employability.life, we also focus on that a lot. Because we feel that students should know, and this is a basic skill that every person should have, specifically when they are going to choose their careers. So what's your take on that?
I am completely in agreement of that, and that's what I have been kind of stressing till now. Is that see, I mean, what's the use? According to me, this is my personal opinion, is that you can have a lot of data. You can create the best code, as I was kind of saying. You can use the best algos, but if you are not able to kind of tell the story, what's the use, right?
Right.
See, and you have to also understand that many of the things that we do as a bank, right, our reports are kind of going to auditors, it is going to regulators, right? So the what goes, I'm not physically present to kind of tell and explain what I have done.
Right.
So you're not just your, I would say, speaking skills, your writing skills has to be equally important.
Right.
Because one of the biggest flaws that we carry as, I would say, people coming from analytics, we become so technical that the other person, I mean, tries to, I would say, navigate through the what I should pick up, what I should pick up.
Right.
So you have to make it so simple that your point that you can actually speak in the dining table what exactly has kind of happened. So that, and somehow I feel that and I tried doing this many years back in HSBC, where I had kind of forced people that everybody has to kind of go through a storytelling course, okay? And it was not easy, right? Because people feel that, oh, I come from English medium school,
Right.
so I have written in English, and I'm conversing in English. So why you need to go through a storytelling? But the thing is that a storytelling is very different
From the
from
conversation.
the conversation.
Right, right.
And it is also very different from the presentations you are making. So you have to understand that in most of the times, obviously, the audience vary, right?
Right.
So, and as you grow up, or rather, as you present in front of people, and as the higher the level, the lesser is the attention span.
Of course.
Okay, so you need to know now what you are going to say to a CEO vis-a-vis to an analyst. So it varies, right? So, so the same thing, the same, let's say, conclusions or the same insights have to vary by the audience that you are kind of presenting to. So
Right.
if you are not a good storyteller, how would you? I mean, everything will be wasted because conclusion by the listener is very fast, right?
Right,
Because
right,
you
right.
get the, I would say, the impact of what you just now said very immediate, right? So, and especially, and I've seen in a lot of important meetings, and if you're not saying the things at the start, right? But the most important thing,
Right.
what we call as bottom line upfront, right?
Right.
So you lose the person, right?
Of
And
course.
after that, the 10 minutes is wasted.
Right.
So you really need to know what you're going to say and by when, and many a times, as I said, sometimes you have audience where you can actually gauge whether the person is getting it or
Right.
not. And but many occasions, either you are on a phone conversation where you
Right.
can't see, or you have sent your write up to someone and the person is kind of gauging what you have done.
Right.
So to me it is very important, and one of the core skills which one needs to have, and it is not it's an art but which can be developed.
Right. Even during our last podcast, we were having the same conversation that how, if something is written, only 5% people would be able to get it. But if something is told, probably 10% or 15%. But if it's something is told in a story with an example by relating it to the people around you, I think people really also feel an emotional connect,
Yeah,
and that make them understand the concept in a better way. So that's
absolutely, absolutely. So I think so. The visual aid, according to me, lives an impact.
Right.
Because as I said, that everybody see. I would say that with all the social media and all coming in, where the feeds are so faster. I mean, it is. I would say 10 to 15 seconds. Right. So you have to create that impact in less than 15 seconds.
Of course.
So and you have to also assume that, let's say you're doing a conversation, you're presenting something for an hour, what with the person will take back is maybe 10 minutes,
10
of
minutes,
the
of
entire
course.
thing.
Right, right.
And you have to also have what are the 3 things you want the person to remember.
Right.
If you're expecting the person to remember the 60 minutes, that's a wrong assumption.
Right.
So you have to kind of narrow it down, and that's where your style, I was kind of talking about, the art comes in. How many times you're repeating the same thing, what you're putting up on the screen.
Right.
And then make it through points, right? First, second, third, like that, so that it stays with the person, right? So that's how it should be done.
So those 10 minutes should be remembered by the audience for their whole life. That's what matters the most.
Yes. I think so. What the students should strive towards is that if there are any opportunities to kind of get into courses or learnings which is simulated in a way, wherein somebody from industry comes and give case studies, and they are trying to solve in groups and to find an answer, and that would be really helpful, because here, one, it's like a real example. Second is that you're working in teams, so
Right.
you get to understand who is kind of doing what, and the leadership aspect also comes out, right? Because
Right.
I mean, that's where I've largely seen, when you put people in group, you will see somebody emerge as a leader
Right.
rather than a
Right,
forced
right.
leadership. The third thing is that you are also building the presentation skills, and in terms of what works, what doesn't work. And the fourth thing is that you are kind of through the case studies, right? You are not putting the thought process in a box that you have to do it in this way, this path. No, right? So you can go and find out how you kind of work it out. I mean, use the best tools, best technologies.
Right.
So there are multiple things, I think, one gets to learn when you are kind of doing like a simulated learning, case study based learning, which is maybe guided through a industrial somebody from the industry. So
Right.
that generally helps, I've seen.
It's great to hear that this is coming from your end. We at Employability.life, we also feel the same. We make our students, learners, learn in the groups,
Okay.
and our problems are derived from the industry. Even those are delivered by the industry people. They work in the groups because ultimately, in the job market, whenever they really enter the job market, they from the first day they have to work in the teams and not individually. So we make sure our learners are ready as individuals, as also teammates. So we do a 360-degree assessment of theirs so
Very
that
nice. That's
they are
great.
ready for the future of work from day zero and not day one.
That's very nice. I think so. I don't know whether Employability.life does it or not. You should actually do like a competition and give awards, right?
Of course, we do that.
I mean, the best, let's say, result or best team player.
Right,
So,
right.
which some carrots end of the day.
Let's talk about the hot topic, that is, I feel, artificial intelligence, because everywhere we turn, AI is actually seeming to predict everything quite faster. In fact, I was reading one report by World Economic Forum where they mentioned that AI can assess the risk 1,000 times faster than what it used to do before. But they also mentioned that it really can't replace the human judgment. So, what do you think that how the AI and we people being involved in this AI world is changing specifically you and your team works?
See, this is my take on AI, and I completely agree that first of all, you have to understand that AI is an algo created by humans,
Right.
and it will work best provided the human knows how to use it. Okay, and use it for the best outcome.
Right.
And when I say best, I mean in a bank kind of a scenario, it has to be responsible, it has to be ethical, which means that whatever outcome I am kind of generating out of it, it is fair and it is unbiased. And where I have seen, where I think AI will work best is when I'm using it on things which is, let's say, repetitive and which is cumbersome from a data heavy perspective, right?
Right.
So when it is taking a lot of time to kind of crunch a number, I think so that's where if I bring in AI, the processing power of it, as you rightly said, is pretty high. So I will get the outcomes very fast. But I completely agree with you, is that all of this, it is to aid or to augment the human decisions, not to replace the human decisions. So, so it is AI is here to stay. I
Right.
definitely agree to that, but it will be best if I use it responsibly, and that can only happen when I know it how to use it really well.
Right, right.
Because one of the which I should have kind of mentioned earlier also, so I have seen that increasingly, see, because of AI we and large language models and all of that, right? You have all these things like Lydia and ChatGPT and all of
Right,
that.
right.
So what is happening is that students unfortunately are taking the shortcuts in terms of trying to kind of get the answers through the
Right.
chat gpt and all. I'm not saying that it is you shouldn't do it at all, but the thing is that you have to also know the basics of it. Okay,
Of course.
because if you don't know the basics, then how do you create the right prompt, right? So if your prompt is not right, so the answer that you will get is also going to be generic.
Of
Right, it
course.
is something similar to you type and put a question to Google, right? It will give you countless number of
Options, yeah.
options, right? Which one is the best, right? So you really need to know, and that's the reason I keep on telling, and this I even tell to my 15-year-old daughter, that you really need to know how to use ChatGPT.
You really need to know how to prompt.
Yes. So that itself, and by the way, this is actually a profession that is becoming very
Yeah.
prompt engineering.
We have one of our course on prompt engineering.
Yes.
We make students learn because this is the world of AI, and if you're not able to command it well, then I don't think so you'll get the better
Yes,
answer, and that
yes.
will be sheer wastage of your
Yes,
time.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And also sometimes you need to know is that just staying on ChatGPT, you also need to know, see, it's throwing you answers, but as I said, it's a aid, right?
Right.
So you need to know how much you're going to take from it, right?
Right.
So
Right.
you can't, I mean, very rarely you will find 100% of the things are correct.
Yeah, yeah, very
Right?
rare.
So, and especially when you're dealing with codes and data, so you have to really have the knowledge of differentiating or filtering out the unwanted from the wanted. So,
Right, right, right. Dr. Biswas, as we have been talking about the transformation which has happened in the banking sector, in the
yeah, yeah.
finance field, we have talked about AI, we have talked about how you used to carry the floppy disk at that time to manage the data. So I just really want to understand. See, every career comes up with its share of challenges and turning points. So, would you like to share any challenge which you faced? Because every project which you plan for doesn't go that well, right? So, if there is any story behind it.
Yeah, sure. You know, I spoke about the floppy disk. I remember when I first joined my first company, GE. Uh, you used to work in mainframes, and the
Right.
screen is black and the font is green. You can change it to pink, and I used to hate it. I used to hate it. Every day morning when I used to see that screen, I used to tell myself something should happen and the color should change. And but unfortunately, but at the same time, what happened was that I started working on it and then got so used to it. When they came up with the change in colors, I somehow couldn't
Digest that.
digest that. And since I was feeling that I was not able to code because of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
color. So I would say that it has been, it's a very rewarding journey, if you ask me. And some of the decisions have been, I would say, maybe what I'm doing today happened because I took some decisions which I felt was appropriate at that point of time. So referring to GE, when I was working with GE, by then manager, who was a Brit, he had asked me to take up an assignment in Shanghai. Okay, and I was not married then, and my parents used to stay in Jamshedpur. I was in Bangalore, and then they asked me to take up an assignment in Shanghai,
Shanghai.
and I somehow felt that. I mean, if I stay like this, it will be definitely difficult to get married because and then you already had a PhD, okay? So and then I said that, oh, I can't do this, and that's what I went and told my boss that I can't take it up, and they were really forcing me, okay? And that's when I sat for interviews both for Citi and HSBC. I cracked both and I chose HSBC. And if I had chosen to stay and go to Shanghai at that point of time, my trajectory could have been very different.
Different, right.
Yeah. So that's one decision. The second decision, when I look back, even when I was with GE, I had spent close to 6 months in Japan. Okay, and that's where I learned. Adaptability as well as perseverance. The reason being, I landed up in Japan and I was asked to carry the laptop. Okay, and that was my first travel abroad. And I felt that, oh, if I lose, I have to pay from my own pocket. So I did not carry the laptop. I landed up in Japan where the keyboards were in Japanese.
Right.
So every time I used to type, it's to shut down, right? Because I didn't know the keyboard, everything is, and I used to wait for the India team to log in. That will tell me where. So then and believe it or not, after I did 2 stints, 3 months, 3 months. And somehow I knew the keyboard, right? So because that's in the mind, I feel,
Of
right?
course.
So then knew where it is, and interestingly enough, I also picked up. I don't know how to speak Japanese, but I picked up the language because I used to have translators.
Right,
Okay?
right, right,
So
right.
then I still remember in sitting in meeting rooms again. All men, largely men, and then I used to tell the translator, "Oh, you translated it wrong." Then she said, "Did you understand what we said?" I said, "But I know you said it wrong." I think so. The perseverance, adaptability, and these kind of strengths help you grow as an individual.
Individual,
I
right.
think, and that's what happened to me. And HSBC, I would say that I picked up roles which many of my mentors as well as many of my peers at some point of time that don't do it because it was not hardcore analytics, and but somehow I felt that I should do it. So I have kind of done roles. I mean, growing teams from 17 to 85, 86, then suddenly
Wonderful.
saying, I don't want any single person reporting to me. I don't want, okay? Because, and that's where I learned how you work with people who are not directly reporting to you, but how to influence decisions, right? So that they also kind of do what you want them to, because you're not impacting their rating, but at the same, because sometimes what happens is that people work because in some ways you're influencing their ratings, their rewards, and all of that,
Of
right? So
course.
how do you work with people where you do not have the power to do so, but still they give you what you want them to give? So that's what I learned, and I think so gradually doing all this, it ended up with where am I today in terms of leading big teams, and it has kind of grown to 500 plus, and maybe another 150 if I include the consultants who work with me. So it has been very, very rewarding.
That's wonderful to know, and I'm really loving this conversation. But now I have a very this is a question from my end specifically. So now you have achieved heights in your career. So if you could give one advice to your 22-year self, what it would be?
Uh, I think so. The one advice that I would have given to my 22-year-old self was it is it's a journey, okay, and what you the equity you develop, it pays you at some point of time. You will not get it. Say, I'm getting tears in my eyes as I speak. It's because you don't get things maybe immediately, but it will pay you.
Of course, and all the hard work
Yes,
pays
yes,
off, of
absolutely,
course.
absolutely. Yeah. Sorry.
So I think I just can't explain the kind of learnings I have learned from you today, and we are honored to have you,
My
and we are
pleasure.
grateful. I think this podcast also gives an opportunity to me, to our team, and also to our listeners to hear to such stories, because I think if even 10, 20, 30, or 50 people are able to get motivated from your story, from how you started your PhD to now from where you are today, I think our podcast will be successful, right?
Absolutely, and that's what I want. I mean, as you had kind of asked me the question, that it is analytics is for everyone. Okay,
Right,
so
right, right.
and there is some aspect in you which will help you nurture your career in analytics, and may not be risk. It could be marketing analytics. It could be people analytics. So and as you get into analytics, you can foray into any parts of the
Right.
bank or retail. So there's so much you can do. So I would say that to all listeners, right, you should always have your curious mind open, right,
Of course.
and there is no end to learning. And whether once when you're doing your college, you can pick up a course which interests you, and it has to be very different, right?
Right.
And I keep on telling that you should always have your right and left side of the brain equally active, okay? So if you are into I mean, if you come from a STEM background, pick up something which is artistic in nature, because that actually nurtures your the other side of the
So,
brain.
of the brain, right.
So make sure that you are doing the small movements, which is in the right direction for yourself.
And I think that also grooms your overall
Absolutely,
personality. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. Because you never know when a calling will come that you're asked to pick up. Why don't you go and do this role? Right? Because most of the times, what happens is that, I mean, we are so inwardly focused, we don't even know what we are good at. I mean, I've come across my mentors and sponsors who speak about me, of some trait of me, I never knew that it existed in me. I said, oh, did you look at that? Oh, I didn't know. So the same goes with everyone, right? There
Everyone,
would be a
right.
lot of aspects in you that others know better than you. So it is always good. I would say that as long as you keep on doing things which is very different from your course and something which brings out a different aspects of you.
That's wonderful. And I think this is going to be a very beneficial conversation which we had for all our followers. Thank you so much for joining, Dr.
Welcome.
Biswas. And with this, we would like to wind up for this time, but we will be back soon with another podcast. Stay tuned at Hello EL.